John, man, thanks so much for coming on the show here today. Really excited to have you on. Could you start by just telling us a little bit about yourself?
I was trying to figure out the last time that I was on your show. It actually was 2024. It wasn't that long ago, but I think the first time I was on your show was like 2016.
Yeah, it's been a while. I think it's actually been a while. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that was like a repeat.
Yes.
What do you want to know? You want to know a little bit about me? Well, I mean, that the fact that we did an episode of the show in like 2016, I think says a lot. How many people in the fitness industry have you been working alongside for a decade plus?
No, I know.
Probably
not a
counts
ton,
on
man.
Both of your hands. Might not even need your toes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man. I graduated university with a kinesiology degree in 2007. At that point, I was already a personal trainer for 3 years because I got certified 1 week after my 18th birthday. I trained at the university gym. Was a personal trainer for a bunch of years. Ended up falling into writing a book for personal trainers. We can talk about that and how that came about if you want. But that book was called Ignite the Fire. Started a website called the PTDC, big blog for trainers for many, many years. And from that, just like built a bunch of businesses. I guess I was a quote unquote creator before that word was invented or that was cool.
Yes.
Where I built a platform first and an audience first and a community first. And then I asked them what they needed. And then I just went out and built that. So over the years, I mean, I've done 8 digital programs, 5 conferences. I've self-published 11 books now. I've traditionally published a book as well. I built a software platform. There's probably a bunch of other stuff I've forgotten. Just kind of run the gamut, man.
Yeah, I love it. And for people that won't go back and listen to those first episode or episodes, what got you into all this, right? Like what got you into fitness and working out and all that originally?
Oh, what got me into working out? Yeah. I mean, look, this brings up a very interesting question, which is why we start doing something is often very different from why we continue doing that thing.
Yes.
We start working out because we like how it feel like it makes us look. But that's usually not what keeps us there. The same as like you start going out with a girl because you like how she looks or makes you feel, right? And then you stay there because of the depth of the relationship. It's the warmth. It's the passion will always dissolve over time. Yeah. But that's not really the special point. So yeah, I mean, why did I start lifting weights? I don't know, to get girls. Like, why does any 15, 16-year-old, Dumbo start lifting weights? And then, that started to evolve in my 20s. It's probably still why I did it, if I'm honest. But then as I got a little bit older, I started to realize that it just made me feel better throughout the day.
Yes. I
don't want to say mental health because I've never really had mental health problems, but it certainly gave me more energy. It certainly made me more optimistic.
Yes.
It made my brain work better. I noticed that pattern. And so that has kept me going for a while. But recently, actually, Mike, I've recognized a different reason why I exercise now. And it's probably the reason why I'm going to continue doing it for the rest of my life.
What's that?
Which is that I've identified that exhausting the body is a wonderful way to energize the mind.
Yes.
Which is that I am deeply obsessed with the creative work that I'm doing. But that creative work forces me to sit for extended periods of time, which is physically taxing.
Yes.
Which requires my body to be mobile, my back to be strong, and my brain to work well, which requires me to have a lot of energy. And so and in addition, the human brain is a very anxious animal. Jerry Seinfeld says you got to put the ox in the plow before you get it to do some work. Famously, he works out even though he says that he hates it 6 times a week. And the reason that he gives is the reason that I have, which is I've got to exhaust my body in order for my brain to work really well. And in turn, an added benefit is that that keeps me strong so that I can sit for extended periods of time. But there's a limit to that. There's a concept that's fascinating to me called Aristotle's golden mean. Have you heard of this? Aristotle's golden mean. So it's kind of with everything.
Yeah.
And it's one of those concepts that when you hear about it, you kind of nod your head. It's like, yeah, of course. But like basically anything good in excess, too much of it, doesn't just diminish the good. actually can oppress the good and can become a negative. And so we see that in fitness. I mean, as scary as this is, how many bodybuilders have dropped dead in the last year?
Oh, yeah.
In my case, this hit me hard. I was at an event 2 years ago in Ojai, California. There was about 160 people there, and they were all millionaires. They were all business people. And I was like, every single person here is in good shape, but not great shape.
Yes.
There was actually not one person who was overweight. And there was not one person who, if they were to walk down the street, you'd be like, yo, bro, you lift.
You are jacked, son.
They've none of them, not one.
Yeah.
They all seemingly independent of one another came to the same conclusion, which is that fitness is really important to a point.
Mm-hmm.
And for everybody, that point is different, so long as it doesn't take away from other aspects of your life.
Yeah.
Like if I train too hard and I can't get down and play with my kid on the ground because my legs are so sore, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah.
What the hell am I doing, right?
Dude, this is such a great point. So I actually kind of came to this realization. I did not know that there was a very specific way to put this.
Say more. Tell me about this.
Yeah. So basically going on vacation next week in Mexico. So I'm not going to, I'm going to be on the other coast than where you're at. But, you know, everybody has, you know, I'm going on spring break. I'm going on vacation. Got to get locked in. Got to, you know, nutrition, whatever. It's like, I got to a point and I was like, look, man, if I take my shirt off, I'm not embarrassed, right? Other than the fact that I'm incredibly white, like extremely pasty white. I can't fix that. Sorry. Can't fix that part. But
you don't tan, you freckle.
I thank you. You understand me. It's a thing. But like, look, nobody cares if I have a six pack or not, right? I'm lean enough. I work out. I take great care of my body. I can demonstrate stuff for my athletes. But here's the thing. I got kids. I like to do social things. You know, if I want to have an adult beverage, I have an adult beverage. If I want to have a cheeseburger or ice cream with your kids. My point I'm making is kind of to your point. You have to understand, like, there is a checks and balances to all this. And I think sometimes you have to go to that extreme end for a minute and you're like, yo, okay, that was maybe too much. And then you back off and you kind of find that sweet spot.
Yeah, I mean, look, everybody says that they work so hard for their kids and they sacrifice it. But like, my kids are literally the reason that I work so hard.
Yes.
It's with work.
Absolutely.
That's with fitness as well. I mean, so many people, when they build a great looking body, build a broken body. I don't need to tell you that. We're starting to see this now, me and you old guys in the fitness industry. I mean, I'm 39. I'll be 40 this coming year. And I've been in the fitness industry since, like I said, 1 week after my 18th birthday.
Yeah.
I've been lifting weights pretty reliably, consistently since I was 15.
Yeah.
But I've never actually gone that hard, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
You know, looking back, there were times harder. Sure, I did a photo shoot. I did kettlebell competitions. You know, I deadlift. I never actually hit 400. I hit 395 once.
Oh, wow.
But I never really went that hard. I almost always left like 2 reps in the hole.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful for that now.
Well, you probably don't hurt. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I find a lot of those people that just pushed and pushed and pushed, they're pretty broken now.
I've never broken a bone.
Yeah.
I've never torn anything.
Yeah.
Lifting weights in the gym for 24 years, I would say conservatively an average of 3 times a week. God, I'm happy I never, like, I got a beautiful wife. My 2 kids, 7 and 3, were jumping on my back on the beach yesterday and I was doing push-ups with them. Like, hell yeah, man. I want to be able to do that.
Yes, that's cool.
But I don't want to snap my shit up. Yeah.
That's just good life advice.
That's just good life advice. Well, but I mean, I think the difference is when we were younger, we could rebound.
Yes. Oh, for sure. I've talked about this numerous times, right? Like at a certain point, your recovery capacity, I don't care how good a shape you were in, how good you look, your recovery capacity at 40 is not what it was at 20.
What's the tipping point? Is there a point where you're just like, once somebody hits this age?
No, I hate that. I hate that, dude. Look, man, I'm 46.
I hate that too, but it's 35. It's 35 years old. But I hate that too. But
dude, it's so funny too because I've had people. Some guys are like 37. I'm like, dude, you're that specific. You know, it is at 37 that something clicked. No,
they revert back to like 3-year-olds where every month matters. Like 37 in 3 months.
Yes, yeah. Come on, thanks for that great analogy or that great point.
Yeah.
Look, man, one of the things that I want to talk with you about today, because we could just talk about getting old forever.
Yeah.
One of the things I want to talk about is this book, right? Okay. The most recent book, right? And obviously, did you say you've written 11? I thought it was 6.
I mean, well, it's like, how do you count? Do you count the good ones or do you count all of them?
Okay, yeah. Yeah, no, that's fair.
You can still buy 6.
I've written a lot of articles.
Yeah,
good and bad.
Preaching to the choir, bro. 6 that you can still get.
Okay,
how about that?
Yeah. That's cool. And one of the things that you talk about in the most recent book is, the idea of relationships, social media, business development, and these are all incredibly important, right? Whether you actually own like a brick and mortar gym, you want to be successful online, you just want to sell more sessions. Right? Sure. Like, I think these are all universally important. But I want you to talk to me about this statement. And I'm going to read some quotes because you have some really quotable quotes in this book. Okay, so here's the first one.
What's the first one?
It's easier, faster, and more profitable to be famous to the family than it is to be famous on the internet. Talk to me about that.
Well, step 1, whenever you play any game, is to figure out what game you're playing.
Yes.
I mean, let me ask you this. What's the best way if you're a youth strength and conditioning coach to get clients for this upcoming season? Is it to try to figure out what music is trending or hashtags to use or thumbnail to test on TikTok and talk about the 3 things you don't know about getting your kid to be better at soccer? Or is it to actually attend the soccer players' games that you already work with and attend those games and shake hands? And perhaps even organize a fundraiser for your kid's team at your gym and invite the other players, maybe other people in the league. What's going to result in better short-term results? Easier, faster, more profitably, and with less comparison, with less burnout, really with less nonsense. Now, is that the only type of thing that you should do? Probably not. I mean, social media, content creation, it's a savings account. It's it's something that you invest into when you've got excess time and capital. Mm-hmm. And you hope that it's going to kick off dividends ongoing, right, in the short term. But you certainly don't rely on that for your short-term needs.
Yeah.
You understand that with excess time and capital and energy, you're going to make investments ongoing so that you are going to wake up in the future and compounding is going to have taken an effect and you're going to be in a place that you can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Because it's so good. I mean, Mike, you're a perfect example of this. How long have you been writing on the internet for?
About 24 years.
You're one of the few guys who's been doing it longer than I have.
Yeah, no. It's been a while, man.
It's been a long time. And you've just plugged away, right? You've never been the type of person who has been crazy in the spotlight.
Yeah.
There have been times when you've been certainly more in the spotlight than others, but you've just been making investments.
Yeah.
And so that's why I say you got to kind of know what game you're playing.
Yeah.
And you have to measure your success based off of the metrics that correspond to the game that you've chosen to play. Is your goal to get clients right now, to sell more sessions right now, to build your facility right now? Or is your goal to become famous on the internet? Both fine goals.
Yeah.
Neither one's better or worse. Massively different games.
Yes.
With different rules of engagement, with different time horizons, with different odds of success, with different reward mechanisms.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all there is to it.
I love this. Now, we've been at this a while, right? You and I, plugging away at these various games that we do play. And the people that we talk to have evolved as well, right? So you've got some of the people that are more on our age or older.
Okay.
You know, they've done things a certain way, but now you've got a young, new, fresh face crop of coaches.
Okay.
And I think a lot of them really inherently believe, like, I have to have a massive online platform to then sell my in-person services. How do you explain to them, like, no, I mean, is it just literally what you just told them? And like distilling it down to, hey, instead of trying to be famous and maybe get in front of little Johnny and his parents, how about you just go to little Johnny's game and meet the other parents and try and do an event? How do you help them understand that or connect those dots?
Unfortunately, for many of them, it's like abs. You kind of have to get it first to realize that it's not actually that important.
Yes.
And it's not as valuable as you think that it is.
Yes.
I knew that in writing this book, it was going to take a while to catch on.
Yep.
Because it fights against our human psychology. I mean, I'm an anthropology minor. I know this stuff.
Right.
It fights against our human herd behavior. It fights against our desire to be liked, to be part of a group, for status, perceived status. Whether we actually have status or not is a whole different question, but perceived status.
Yes.
It fights against all of that. So whether it is objectively the right thing or not, how do I explain that to somebody? What I do is I say to people, look around you at everything that you own right now in this room that you're in. And if I'm with them physically, I'll point out stuff. But if I'm not, I'll be like, okay, I got a microphone, I got a water bottle, I got a computer, I'm wearing clothing, right? I've got headphones, whatever you see, I've got a pen. Okay, now also think about the last, call it 3 people or services that you hired for anything.
Yep.
Plumbers, tutors for your kids, whatever. Do you even know if any of these people or companies have a social media account?
Yeah. Yes.
Let alone whether they were the primary influence for you buying.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you even know if they have a social media account? And that's often when the light bulb goes off in their head and they're like, no. Or maybe sometimes they're like, yeah, I hired a coach. And what I do then is I explain to them, I'm like, okay, well, you hired a fitness coach.
Yep.
Who you have been following in the fitness industry for a long time.
Yes.
Well, then I explain to them the difference between being a maximizer and a satisfizer. And the fact that most consumers for most projects, or for most products or services, are what's called satisficers. Said another way, they're wildly ignorant towards what makes a thing good or not good. The majority of people who hire anybody who works in fitness or strength conditioning are wildly ignorant towards what makes a good strength and conditioning coach.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The problem, though, that we encounter is that we're not.
Yes.
We're maximizers for our own thing.
Yep.
And the groups that we participate in, the people that we surround ourselves with, and as a result, the filter bubbles that surround us algorithmically in our online digital worlds, reinforce the only thing really that we maximize in.
Yeah.
Said another way, you're too close to your own damn world.
Yes.
So, yes, maybe the one thing that you love and you obsess over, fitness, is the place where you hired somebody who is a fitness influencer who you like.
Yeah.
But think about the people who are hiring your services, right? Are they the type of people who are, ask 5 of your clients, do this. Here's, I've never actually thought about this, but this would be a fun experiment. Ask 5 of your clients to flip on their Instagram or their TikTok and look at their feed.
Oh yeah. No, I've done this actually. A couple have shown me just randomly because
it'd be interesting to see what's on there.
It's wild. It's
so
even
different than what.
Yes.
Yep.
It's so different
from anything you see.
Yeah.
From anything you see. And there's probably nothing that has to do with fitness on that feed.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so this is really interesting. And this brings me to a point where, years ago when iFast was what people think of it as, and we had employees, I was going through a discussion with one of our coaches at the time. Awesome young man. His name was Jason. And Jason, I was basically doing like role play with him, right?
Okay.
Trying to help him like understand how to sell a service to a dad. And so he's going in.
This was an in-person trainer in your club.
Yeah.
And he was selling to a dad of like a kid who was going to be in your program.
Acting like I was a dad, right? So I'm asking him questions about the assessment and all that.
Cool.
And he starts using all these technical jargon and terms. And literally I'm like, huh? What? Every time he would use one of these like technical pieces. And finally he started to see where I was going with this. I'm like, hey, none of this means anything to the consumer.
Right.
He just wants to know why little Johnny's slow. Right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's something where helping just like trying to meet people where they're at, right? And especially in the fitness space, like you said, unless you are a fitness person and you're hiring a fitness coach, 99.9% of the people you interact with have no ability to qualify if you're a good coach or not. And I think you even talked about that in the book, right? A lot of times you buy the person. You buy the person, and then hopefully they provide a good service.
It's such a good point. I like that example with the role playing with little Johnny. It's like the jargon that you're impressed with on the internet is completely irrelevant to the people who use your services.
Absolutely.
It's the other part of it is that actually now, I mean the exception to this is somebody who's really high performance. Like if you're trying to get somebody at high level of competition or on a podium or whatever. That's the exception to what I'm about to say.
For sure.
Maybe you're trying to get them to wear like a little banana hammock on stage or whatever, and,
right?
Or compete at the highest level. But there's actually extraordinarily diminishing returns in terms of the importance of what you know and your expertise on the results that you can get for your clients. And I think that's the case in almost every industry. It's actually increasingly becoming the case where knowledge has become democratized. Like there's basically nothing that anybody in the world now can't know with a few quick prompts. And so you got to go to what's scarce, and knowledge used to be scarce. But scarcity doesn't go away when new technology is invented. It just moves. And so you've got to go to what's scarce. But what the majority of people need is actually a relatively low level of industry-specific knowledge. What you need to do is actually combine skills and abilities, and a lot of those are like actually the deep coaching abilities. Call it motivational interviewing, empathy, emotional intelligence. Combining those things in order to get the buy-in that you need, in order to do the work that you can do, in addition to getting somebody to want to do the damn thing and stick with it. Whether they do 8 goblet squats at a 4020 at an RPE of 8.5, or do it at a 2111 tempo at an RPE of 9, is probably not going to impact their performance at their high school track meet.
Right.
To you, sure, you'll geek out on that shit all day.
Absolutely. To our clients, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Okay. Another quote that I really like. I'm telling you, I got 3 or 4 here that are awesome. And I think this is one that a lot of people need to hear. And I think we can dive in on it. So here's the quote.
Because I've drank enough coffee to think thoughts now.
You're ready to go.
Go on.
Endlessly searching for the best way to do something is a surefire way to fail. Good enough repeatedly is how to get great. Talk to me a little bit more about that.
So I believe that one of the biggest reasons for burnout and what I call bore out, dissatisfaction, the fact that adults tend to stop evolving once they become an adult. They don't meaningfully improve on just about anything. I believe that one of the biggest reasons for that is actually a loss of a deeply vital seasonality that we have all built into us. And you think about how recent of an invention that was.
Yeah.
The combination of the clock and the light bulb turned natural time into artificial time. Think about what used to happen, call it 150, 200 years ago. It got dark.
Mm-hmm.
You stubbed your toe. You said shit. And then you took your ass to bed.
Yeah.
In the summertime, the days were longer. You slept less.
Yep.
In the wintertime, the days were shorter. You slept more. In our hunter-gatherer societies, generally, 3 seasons of the year, you worked really, really hard. And then the 4th season of the year, the winter, the days were shorter. You slept more. You spent more time with your community. And you, call it, exploited more of what you had worked so hard for. Now, I mean, it was harsh. Like, sure. It was incredibly harsh.
Sure.
My point is that I believe that actually that seasonality is really, really important to bring back and to fabricate. You spoke about how I was in Mexico. I mean, you're coming to Mexico next week, but I've been here in this little town, this little pueblecito, since November. This is actually year 13 in a row now.
Wow.
Where I've lived abroad a minimum of 4 months a year, every single year.
That's cool.
And I spoke about, why we start something isn't why we continue doing something. Obviously, it started with a zest for adventure and exploration and a search for year-round sun. But then what I realized actually is that what I was doing was I was rebuilding seasonality, stops, starts, reprioritization, starting back at first principles. Every single time that I leave for a season, I wipe my calendar clean and I build it back up. And I have a whole process for this. A lot of this is in the next book.
Sure.
And every time that I come back, I do the same thing. Getting great at something is not the result of 10,000 hours. It's the result of 10,000 iterations.
I like that. Yeah.
Now, that's not obviously an exact number. But the point is, you have to start something, work hard on something, and stop.
Yeah.
And enter a new season where you reassess. And so that's why I say that's where that quote comes from. The only way to get great is to go over and over and over again being good and stopping and reassessing. Can I tell you a quick story that I think really,
I would love it.
Really illustrates this?
I would love that.
You know who Richard Feynman is?
Mm-hmm.
So famous physicist Richard Feynman had a bathtub in his house that he had in Pasadena, California. And one of the things that he noticed was that there were ants marching from one end of the bathtub to the other end of the bathtub. And he was curious because the ants were all going in a perfectly straight line. It's like, how the hell does this happen?
Right.
Like, how do they know to do this?
Yep.
And so he did an experiment where he took a lump of sugar and he put it on the exact opposite end of the bathtub. And he waited there until one ant discovered the sugar and made its way back to the nest or to where it started from. And then he traced the line that ant followed with a marker. And what he noticed was that line back to the nest was wiggly, was full of errors. Right? Then he waited for a second ant to find the lump of sugar and make its way back. And that line was also wiggly, but a little bit less so.
Yeah.
And after the 4th or 5th ant, what happened was they formed an almost perfectly straight line back. He did this for 10. And we now know that ants have this little pouch in their stomach that secretes endorphins, and basically they pick up the smell. And one of the things with paths, one of the things with trails is that any trail naturally reinforces over time.
Yeah, sure.
Metaphorically, physically. And it's the same thing with ants, right? So the more ants that went on it, the more ants secreted the endorphins, the stronger the trail became, whatever. Well, that's life, isn't it?
Yeah.
You sketch.
Yeah.
you sketch.
Yeah.
And you sketch, you iterate, you reinforce, you sketch a little bit better. You have to be willing to do that. And you have to be focused enough to know what you want to do and know what you want to be great at and be willing to sketch that line.
Yeah. One of the things that I wrote down while you were talking about that, and I don't think enough people give credence to this, is when you talk about seasonality, another way I think to think about it is times of where you just plan downtime, right? You're taking a break. You're stabilizing, right? And nobody wants to talk about a stabilization phase in training, right? Everybody wants, more squats, more deadlifts. Well, sometimes it's this and stabilize, and this and stabilize, or just taking space, right? Sometimes you need space away from the thing to like marinate on it, maybe get some life experience, accrue some other, inputs. And then when you get back into it, you're like, oh, now I get it.
Yeah.
But regardless, the point that you're making is huge. Like, if you want to be great at it, you can't just do it for a month or a year, like compounded over years, decades. That's how you really get great at something. So you got to find ways to keep it engaging for the long haul.
One of the things, we spoke before we started to record this, that that I'm not happy to admit, but I'm willing to admit, is that the book launch for the Obvious Choice book was largely a disappointment. And I wrote an article about this, but it was a disappointment in terms of sales. What's interesting is that the reviews of the book are actually exceptional. And so, I have high hopes. Books are a long-term game.
Sure.
But one of the things that I noticed, looking back, one of the points, and I thought of it the second you said that, is just how much both reputation and mastery is highly contextual. I don't think we quite appreciate this. You can be a very big deal in one place and completely irrelevant somewhere else. The college professor who's renowned at their college goes to teach at a new school and has to start again from scratch. The community leader who moves into a new neighborhood and is now just another neighbor. In my case, right, the fitness industry personal trainer guru guy that I've been building with 15 million words that I've written on the internet since 2011.
Wow. Yeah.
And now I'm trying to expand into other spaces, and I can't even get a 21-year-old, self-published author who's bragging about how he made $50,000 last year with his self-published books to answer my email. Because in his world, I don't have a big Twitter following.
Yeah.
Right? And so reputation is highly contextual, but so is mastery. Here's the other part about the book launch that I was very embarrassed to admit, is that I bombed my podcast interviews.
Really? Dude, you're so good on a podcast. Why? How did that happen?
So two of the largest podcasts, two of the larger podcasts that I was being interviewed for the book, both messaged me on launch day to say that they're very sorry, but the episode does not meet their quality standards and won't be published.
Oh my gosh.
And if you walk out of the house in the morning and you meet an asshole, like maybe you met an asshole.
Right.
But then you keep walking a little bit and you walk into a coffee shop and you meet another asshole. Like, I got that news for you.
Right. Yeah.
You're the one who's the asshole. And so the first time it happened, I was pissed. I was like, oh, they screwed up, right? This can't be me. The second time it happened, I was like, oh no, maybe it was me.
Yeah.
And so I was not happy.
Sure.
But I did the really hard thing and I asked for feedback, and that's not something I'm good at, but I asked for feedback, and the feedback that he gave me was incredible feedback, and I'm very grateful for that. One of the reason that I bring it up is because what that made me realize is just how contextual mastery is. I thought going into these podcast recordings, I've recorded over 800 podcast episodes.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, on my own podcast, other podcast interviews. But when I've been interviewed, it's been largely people like you who I've known for a long time, and we're familiar with one another's work.
Yeah.
We come from similar backgrounds. I know your audience well because it was me, and I've spoken at events and met thousands of people in our industry that are, the types of people in the audience, or it was my own podcast, and my own podcast is designed to be the type of show where I'm speaking for 80 to 90% of the time. For the longest time, for 400 or 500 episodes, I had two co-hosts, right, Amber and Ren. And the design of the podcast was that they were almost like they were color commentary. And so how was I practicing, right?
Yeah.
I was practicing taking over conversations. I was practicing having a one-sided conversation. I was not practicing listening. I was not practicing curiosity. I was not practicing for an audience of people who weren't already bought into me or who I didn't know because they weren't in my industry.
Right.
Mastery is highly contextual. I went into these things thinking that I was going to blow them away because I've been doing this for so long. I had been practicing, not the wrong way, but a different way.
Yes.
From how I needed to show up on those shows.
Very interesting. Okay. I want to come to another quote, and I'm going to put this out there. This might be my favorite quote from the entire book. Okay.
Good. Let's hear it.
We often don't have a problem with authenticity. Do you know where I'm going with this?
Keep
I'm going
going.
to start it over. We often don't have a problem with authenticity. We have a problem trusting that our authentic self isn't enough.
Tell me what that means to you.
Dude, I'm telling you, that really hit home for me. Like, really hit home in the sense that I think there are a lot of us out there that are high level. Like, I think there is something baked into a lot of high performers, right?
Okay.
Like, I'm not good enough, right? My performance, I can be better. Comparisonitis, all of these things.
Right.
It's like, oh, okay. No, what if what I am really is enough? And so that's something that I think I struggled with mightily when I was younger, like in my 20s. That's why, hey, you want to know why I was writing articles and speaking at seminars and all that? It's to show, hey, no, I'm somebody. Like, I can do this, And then over time, perspective, family, kids, professional success, you're like, oh, well, I've been okay all along,
Right.
Right. But that really hit home. And I think that probably hits home with a lot of people that just feel like, oh, if I just do this, right? If once I do this thing, I'll feel accomplished, or I make X amount of money and I'll feel good. So I don't know. That one really hit home, dude. That was a really, really good quote.
Do you know I still collect baseball cards?
No, I did not know that.
I do.
Yeah?
I do. One of the reasons Allison asked me what I'm most looking forward to when we go home this week. And I didn't admit this part to her because it probably wouldn't make her very happy. But one of the things that I'm most looking forward to is I've got like 10 boxes of completely worthless, unopened packs of baseball cards from like the 1990s.
Yeah.
And my neighbor's going to come over and we're just going to rip them all just looking for Ken Griffey Jr.'s.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're all weird.
Yes.
We all have things about us that are unique and different. And then we have about 99.9% of us that's the same.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we share like 97% of our DNA with monkeys, for God's sake.
Right.
Like 99% of it with basically every other human.
Yep.
And so I call it the 1% uniqueness factor. What's the 1% that makes you different? That's how you stand out.
Yeah.
You help new moms lose fat and gain more confidence. Like, who gives a shit, dude?
Right.
Who cares? Right? What is it that's different about you? What is it that's unique? What is it that's a bit weird?
Yeah.
How much of that do you feel confident sharing? The story in the book is not that I tell for this is not a fitness industry story, but it's a baseball card story. So I'm going to tell it because I like baseball cards. Yeah. And it's this guy named Brian Pirip who's become a good friend of mine, and he ran a company that produced travel tourism shows encouraging Chinese tourists to the United States.
Okay.
If you could go into a dark room and think about what the worst possible business was when COVID-19 hit.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that might be up there. Like, I run a business that is solely dependent on Chinese tourism in the United States. And so it was crushed basically overnight.
Yeah.
And him and his team were looking around like, what do we do? Like, do we just shut the doors? Like, we don't know when this is going to be back up. And one of his guys, Colin, who had the camera, said, I don't know, man, but let's just have some fun. You always talk about, these baseball cards you like collecting, right?
Yep.
What's that one you got over there? He goes, oh, Jose Canseco, 1986. It's his rookie card. It's one of my favorite cards. He goes, cool. I'm going to turn on the camera. I want you to talk. He held up the card. He showed it. He started talking about 1986, Jose Canseco. They created a new TikTok account. They posted the video. 35,000 views overnight.
What? Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do it again. Take that one. 1989, Upper Deck, Ken Griffey Jr. Talk about this card. 100,000 views overnight. All right. Brand new TikTok account. Because there's something here. Brian now is one of the biggest micro influencers in the sports card space. He travels over 300 days a year. He meets every single card shop owner. He goes in there with a camera. He shakes hands. He goes to all the card shows. He goes to baseball games. He hands out packs to the point where Topps sends him boxes because he just hands out packs to people at baseball games.
Oh, that's cool.
He's like that guy, right?
Yeah.
And I started watching his videos one day because, the algorithm knows you better than you know yourself. Like, I haven't collected cards since I was 14, but I guess a video came up about baseball cards. So I watched it. And then it started showing me more and more and more. And so I watched more and more and more. Right? And, and his videos kept coming up and I loved them. And so one day I said, thank you. Because I have a personal rule to never resist a generous impulse.
Yes.
And I'm not always good at that, but it's if you feel like saying something nice to somebody, you should say something so fast before your stupid brain talks you out of it.
I like that a lot. Yeah.
And so I sent him a message one day and I just said, thank you. I don't remember exactly what I said. They made me feel something that I had lost, right?
Yes.
Of course, we get on the phone 2 days later because we geek out on the same thing.
Right.
And a 15-minute phone call turned into about a 2-hour phone call, as it happens when you have something, when you have your 1% uniqueness in kind with somebody else. This is what happens.
Yes.
And he told me in passing at the end of it, this was not the goal, that he was starting this company called Mintiverse, and he was innovating on the display and the protection of sports cards and memorabilia.
Oh, that's cool.
With new cases. And he said, we're just about to get going. We're looking for 5 initial investors to fund our first round, basically our seed round. And I said, how much are you looking for? And he told me. And I said, stop looking. I'll give you the whole thing. First phone call. Didn't do any due diligence. Contract took about 4 days.
Yeah.
And I wired him the money. And so I took the entire first round of the investment in this company.
Wow.
And it's been doing well. But that's what happens. That's the demonstration of what happens when you really dive into the thing that makes you weird and unique. And so maybe it's not your own business. Maybe it's something about your business that you're unique in. Are you a space geek who loves cometology, but you also like fitness? Well, maybe you should start the Space Nerd Athleticism and Sexification Agency,
right.
SNASA.
Right.
Whatever it is.
Yes.
And that quote comes from a quote from Brian when I interviewed him. And he said, one of the things that I realized was that this thing that I always did that I kept behind the scenes that I was kind of embarrassed about, because this is like something kids do, adults don't do it. When I started sharing it, I started to realize that, there's actually a lot of people like me.
Yes.
And it's been pretty cool to meet them.
That's cool. That's cool. I love that. Okay. Now, this last question is a love-hate, right? Because I'm just going to put it out there. Like, sometimes I love these, sometimes I hate these, but I do think you strike me as the guy that likes a good thought experiment. Okay? And I forget who said it. I'm sure numerous people have said it, but, people that have built multi-million, billion-dollar companies. They're like, I could lose all my money right now. You could start me from scratch and I could rebuild it in whatever, a year, 5 years, whatever.
Yeah.
Because of what I've learned. Okay. So I'm going to pose something similar to that to you, right? Like, let's say, hey, you don't get to touch the fitness space, right? You got to start somewhere totally fresh. What are you going to do? What are your first steps to build a really successful business? Because this is where a lot of people are coming from, right? Yeah. They're young, they're hungry, they're passionate about fitness or whatever. What advice are you going to give yourself and or them to start getting traction?
The first step is I would get myself out of the corner as quick as possible.
Explain.
Freedom is optionality.
Yes.
Freedom is providing yourself the opportunity to fail. You need to be able to move and explore and experiment and iterate. And at the beginning, if you've got bills to pay, if you've got debt, you're not free.
Yes.
Which means you can't move, which means you can't explore, which means you can't act differently. And the longer you wait, you will always be able to get yourself out of it, but the harder it will be. Yes. So, you're as close as you are today, no matter where you are, to getting out of the hole than you ever will be. So what I would do is I would look for probably the least scalable, most profitable thing I could possibly do, which is almost always going to be trading my time for money.
Yes.
I would completely ignore the digital world.
Yep.
And I would pound the pavement. And I would get to a point that I call my freedom number. So what is the amount of money that you need each month to pay your bills, your rent, your mortgage, whatever that number is? Back when I was a personal trainer, single guy in my 20s in Toronto, I calculated this. It was $2,600. Like, it's way more than that now. I got
sure.
2 kids with a third on the way, a mortgage,
yes.
a whole bunch of other stuff that I've committed to. Like, it's way more than that.
Yeah.
Whatever that number is, right? There can be a wide variances, but whatever that number is, figure out what that number is and get there.
Yeah.
Ignore all the scalable stuff. Ignore all the passive stuff. That's stuff that you build once you're free, once you've built the optionality.
Yes.
The more you try to do that simultaneously, the less of a chance you're going to be able to do it. So what can you do to people who can afford it and are willing to pay?
Yeah.
To make the most amount of money at the highest profitability you possibly can. It might be fitness. It might not be.
Yeah.
Can you take a course on the internet for free? Coursera, there's a whole bunch of them, and learn the basics of copywriting and Facebook ads in the next 2 weeks in the 1 hour at night you have when your kids are in bed. You'll be tired. It'll be hard. But your future self will thank you.
Yes.
And then can you go to dentists, chiropractors, real estate agents, anybody who has the type of service-based business where they're probably good at what they do, where a lead to them is very valuable, and where they make a lot of money. And can you say to them, hey, for $1,000 a month, I'm going to run your Facebook ads. Might not be Facebook ads. That's just an example.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
Do that until you got 10 people.
Yeah.
Boom.
You have 10K
you had 6
a month.
figures.
Yeah, congrats.
Right? And, maybe that's not what you want to do for the rest of your life, but I got news for you. It's pretty easy these days to do that.
Yeah.
You could find somebody else that you could delegate that work to and pay him $500 a month per client.
Yep.
Right? And go on and Train your clients, train your athletes, train whatever it is. Create your content. Try to become a creator.
Yes.
Make a flavored water company because not enough of those exist with some sort of new nootropic, whatever, or hydration thing, or clothing line, or hair extensions, or creatine brand, or whatever it is you want to do, right? Yep. But you gotta tackle what comes first.
There's a lesson in here too. And I'm not telling, if you're a young coach, I still believe like, hey, if you want to be a great coach, become a great coach first. Yeah. And then you can scale that in whichever way you want, right?
When you're young, you generally have time.
Yes.
Right? And absolutely. You may not have bills.
Yes.
So
that's both totally of which different. Are nice.
I'm speaking like an old man with
trust
kids
me.
That I got to feed, right?
It doesn't get better, man. It doesn't get better. But one of the things that you said, without saying it directly, I've talked about this with Luca. I've talked about this with Andy McCloy. There are high-value skills that transcend the realms, right? Copywriting is one of them. Being able to write at a high level. Yeah. Public speaking. Being able to sell things to other humans. These are all high-value skills that, hey, if you want to take them and amplify what you're doing in fitness, great. Mm-hmm. But then if you decide, hey, I don't want to just sell fitness anymore, I'm going to move over to this other space. Again, it gets you out of that corner. But I think those are skills, regardless. I feel like if you want to be in this space, if you want to work for yourself, be an entrepreneur, those are skills you need to cultivate at a certain level. And if you get good enough, great, hire it out, right? Because then at least you have a filter for what good copy is, that sort of thing.
That's exactly it.
But those are high value skills that can transcend. That's probably made me way more money, honestly, than my training. The ability to write sales copy, to speak in front of others, because that gives me the leverage and the platform to get in front of more people and actually scale.
There's no question. Yeah, there's no question. I mean, there's all this talk about resiliency these days. Well, how do you become more resilient? You build skills that you can take with you. Nobody can take that away from you.
Yes.
Who cares if your gym closes down? Who cares if your owner's a jerk? Who cares if your landlord increases your lease?
Yeah.
Right? You have these skills.
Yep.
All of those things can happen. All of them are out of your control.
Yes.
What is in your control? What can you take with you? I want to sleep well at night. Yep. I don't want to be worried about how somebody else can take me out of the game because they have so much control over me.
Yes.
The only way that I know how to do that has been to build those skills and a few others. I call them leapfrog skills in the book. Wealth management is another one.
Yep.
The best way to make money is with money.
Yes.
I mean, it's
absolutely.
Like it's like I've made way more money with money than I have with anything else, to the point where I'm fairly confident in saying that the only reason to run an active business is to be able to make enough money that you can then start making money with your money.
Yeah. I like that a lot.
Now, I mean, running an active business has a lot of other benefits, purpose, fulfillment, you're solving problems. There's a lot, but from a purely financial sense, I'm pretty confident making that statement.
Yeah, I agree.
And nobody can take that away from you.
Absolutely.
Right? Well, again, and you'll sleep better at night.
You can leave this industry, any other. If you have those skills, you transcend the field that you're in. Right?
Because artificial intelligence can come into this industry and render trainers obsolete, and you'll be like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Time to move.
Yeah.
Time to shift.
Yeah.
Right?
I love it. Okay. Last but not least, lightning round. 4 fairly short questions. Your answers can be as long or short as you like.
I should have read this on that document you sent me so I was prepared.
No. There's times I won't even send the lightning round because I want an authentic response. So I'm happy that you didn't. Number 1. And I know this is hard.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite book that you've written so far? It's probably like kids, right? You can't say you have a favorite kid, but can you say, do you have a favorite book that you've written?
If I'm honest, my next book coming out next January is my favorite book. It's called The Obvious Changes. It's on life design. It is the most deeply personal book to me. I think, anytime anybody gains mastery over anything, it eventually evolves to the point of personal development.
Yes. Absolutely.
There's only so much you can learn about something. Like The Obvious Choice will probably be the last business book that I'll write for no other reason than I don't think you need to know anything else.
Yeah.
I could give you more frameworks. I could make up more bullshit acronyms. I could talk to you about sales copy and copywriting and go into every nuance of the thing.
Yep.
But really, I think that book is probably everything that you need to know. And that book is about how to find your way in business. The next book is about how to find your way in life. And so the next one.
Yeah.
It's helped me become, writing it has helped me become, by virtue of writing it, I've had to think about these things much more.
Yeah.
I've had to verbalize and teach these things, which means I've had a lot of very interesting conversations with people about it.
Yeah.
I've read a lot more. I've listened a lot more. I've worked through these ideas in my head. It's helped me become a better father, dad, a better dad, a better business owner, a better grown-up son, a better partner, spouse, sibling. It's helped me focus my own work better.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
huge.
You just killed my next question, because that's what's the next book you're going to write. So let's tangent off that. Do you find that, I think I know the answer, but do you find that when you write these books, and especially this one, do you just have way more clarity? Right? The topic that's fuzzy and like a warm feeling to you, by the time it comes to the end of a book, you're like, no, like, now this is like a fully formed thought that I can give to somebody else and they can take and run with it.
Writing for me is an incredibly selfish endeavor.
Yes, me too. But explain.
Well, I write because I want to understand stuff better. I'm not interested in writing about things that I have already mastered.
Yes.
I write because there are things that I've done that I've had success with, and I'm trying to make sense of it. And so
it's like a learning mechanism, right? Like you're trying to like put it through a filter and figure out, like, why did that really work?
It's a post-rationalization is what it is.
Most things are, right?
It's saying, I fucked around for a long time.
Yep.
And I found out some stuff.
Yep.
And a lot of it worked in ways that are very perhaps counterintuitive. Yep. I mean, basically the entire next book is all about the paradoxes and contrasts in life. I mean, the seasonality, for example. Yep. But even the contrast, I talk about love. I talk about adult friendship. I talk about the importance of actually curating your friends and how callous that sounds, but how important it is to actually categorize your friends as a way to figure out who to spend time with and who not to.
Yes.
With love, I talk about the importance of actually growing apart as a way to thrive together. There's a lot of counterintuitive paradoxes that I've been able to make sense of. And going through them, it was all messy. This is the problem that I have with a lot of conventional, call it self-help, personal development, short hit snippet stuffs. Like when you get deeper into anybody's work, often this comes through. But with a lot of the social media stuff, somebody did a thing for a long time. They fucked around. They found out for a long time, right? And then they post-rationalized it. They smoothed out the edges. They created a nice-sounding narrative, probably an acronym, probably some sort of hero origin story, Joseph Campbell-esque, whatever, and created a framework for you to follow. And that's fine. It'll help you perhaps do what they did faster, which is always what we're trying to do with the next generation is, we learned from the previous generation. We're trying to teach the next generation to do it a bit better. The problem, though, is that when you snip off the beginning and the end, as with any short hit content, you're missing all of the nuance. You're missing the most important part, which is the fucking around and the finding out.
Yeah.
And so take this framework, right? Great. But figure out where you exist within it.
Yeah.
And so to me, writing is that, is it's, I learned all of these things from all of these people for so long. I've traveled over 2,000 days in the last 13 years. I've lived in over 13 countries. I've built 7 different unique businesses in different verticals that have done a minimum of 6 figures. I've started a family. I've had 8 miscarriages and 2 kids.
Oh my gosh.
My wife got diagnosed with cancer. Like, we've been through some shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
You put that all together and you start making sense of it. It's powerful. Powerful for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Wow. I mean, this is going to be a hard one to follow up. But I was going to give you a fill in the blank.
Okay.
Especially because I feel like at some level we have transcended, not just in this talk, but you especially have transcended from fitness to business. There's levels, right? I think that most people go through. But I would love to just go back to the beginning. Like, what was your proudest moment in the fitness industry?
I wouldn't say there was an individual moment, but I would say my proudest achievement is perhaps it's not accurate. But I take a lot of credit with popularizing online fitness.
For sure.
I wrote the textbook on it. I created the first ever certification. To my knowledge, I created the first ever educational curriculum around it.
Yeah.
We've helped over 65,000 trainers in over 120 countries.
That's pretty cool.
With our paid materials.
Yeah.
I'm fairly certain that that's more than every single other person put together.
Probably.
Start or grow or scale their online fitness. But what happened in the early days, I started in 2012, was I had to make it okay to do.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems crazy now.
Yeah.
But back then, I mean, I was the first ever person speaking about anything to do with online for the NSCA, for the ACSM, for CPTN in Canada, a bunch of other organizations. I mean, the ACSM, I kid you not, when I spoke in San Diego at their event, I don't remember, in early 2010s, there were 60 speakers, 58 had PhDs, and I was the only person speaking about business. Me and one other guy didn't have a PhD, and I was the only one speaking about business. Those were hard rooms to speak to.
Oh, absolutely.
And
I lost CEUs at events because I had speakers talking about business. They would say, we'll give all of these people that are talking about exercise, we'll give you CEUs for them, but not for the business.
People don't realize what the industry was like in the 2010s.
They don't.
Just how strong the old guard was.
Yes.
And how much you were pushing up against trying to innovate, trying to say, no, actually, you can do a reliable, responsible assessment remotely.
Yes.
You really can.
Yeah.
And I'd say my proudest achievement has been really making that okay for people, because the fitness industry, by and large, was a very broken business model for a very, very, very long time. And it needed to get better. And I think it is better.
Agreed.
Now that there's just a lot more opportunity for people who are willing to go just a little bit off of, the commonly trodden path and find it.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, one more. What's next for John Goodman? Obviously, another book. Moving back to Toronto.
Yeah, I mean, moving back to Toronto. We're having another kid in May, so that's a big thing. We're actually going to be away for almost all of next year. We're leaving in probably January, but we're going to be doing Greece for 3 months, Bali for 3 months, and then Japan for 3 months, with an 8-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a newborn. So that's going to be interesting.
It's going to be fun.
What's next for me, to be honest, is full-fledged authorship. I mean, it's a new world. It's a world that I'm obsessed with. It's a world where I'm able to be creatively fulfilled, and I find immensely challenging.
Yes.
I mean, I could write books or create programs or whatever in the fitness industry. To be honest, I probably don't even need to do anything else in the fitness industry for the rest of my days. But I always liked Mark Manson's story. You know Mark Manson?
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's inspirational for this reason, not even necessarily the success of his book and that, but he wrote a blog for a lot of years. he was coming out with a book. He had a blog post called Sutter Not Giving a Fuck, went crazy viral. His editor said, hey, why don't you make that the title of your book? Boom. Most viral book in history.
Yeah, for sure.
And, 10 million plus copies sold, whatever. And what most people don't know about his story is that for the entire year that book came out, selling millions of copies, was actually one of the most miserable years of Muck's life. He said this on a bunch of interviews. He basically drank beer, ordered pizza, and played video games for that entire year. He didn't know how to handle it.
Right.
There's a certain altitude sickness that can happen if you climb a mountain too fast.
Yeah,
you don't have to see the experiences of lottery winners to see this. We all want to hit the proverbial lottery. Like Manson's case, he owned it. He didn't win the lottery.
For sure.
We all want to hit the proverbial lottery, like me too. But actually, what we don't take into consideration is it's actually better to ascend the mountain slowly, maybe hit the switchback, stop, catch your breath. Acclimatize. Yes. That's neither here nor there. One of the things that he said, and what he's doing now, is he's deep into YouTube. And he said, this idea of mastery is highly contextual, reputation is highly contextual. He said he didn't like to be on the top of the mountain, trying to protect his space, trying to stay up there.
Interesting.
He found it way more comfortable to be at the bottom again, scratch and climb his way up. Now, of course, there's a tailwind. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
But even then, he's done an incredible job with YouTube, but he's had to learn new skills. He's had to network in new places.
It's a totally different ballgame.
And he wasn't cool there. There were other people who were the cool kids in that school. And so, obviously it was easier for him to get reputations, but
for sure.
He had to scratch and claw again. And that's how I feel with writing the books that I'm writing right now, with authorship as a primary vocation. I always wrote books. I always produced books, but they were books as a means to an end. They had what's called instrumental value, not final value.
Okay. Can I ask you a bonus question just because I got you here?
Yeah.
One creative to another. Have you read the book Daily Rituals? First of all, have you read that book?
No.
Oh my gosh. You have to read that book. Actually, when we're done, send me your address. I'm going to send you a copy of this book. It's going to be that valuable to you.
See, guys, this is what you do. You get on Mike's podcast,
and then I send you
for
books.
14 years, and you spend an hour and a half talking to him, and he'll send you a free book.
There you go.
Nobody else worked out the strategy before.
Come on. Okay. Anyway, the Daily Rituals are like some of the most famous people in history, right? I'm just going to Hemingway. I don't know. Most important people, famous people.
Happiest or most joyful, or like famous people who are actually miserable?
Both.
Okay.
It's a mix of both.
Okay.
Benjamin Franklin, right? But it's their daily ritual.
Got it.
Right? And so almost every writer they have a ritual, right? Yeah. I get up, I drink coffee, I write for 4 hours, then I have lunch and I walk the rest of the day.
2 hours before my family wakes up every morning.
That was it. That's what I needed to hear. So is there like a process? Is there like a certain amount of coffee? Give it to me, like in excruciating detail.
You set it up the night before.
Yep.
Before I go to bed at night, what I do is I review my notes of stuff that I'm going to work on or write the next morning. That way my brain can mentally process it unconsciously overnight.
Yep.
I set up my coffee the night before, grind the beans, set the timer. What I lose in freshness, I make up for in more rapid caffeine injection into my veins.
Yep.
I lay out my mug, my honey, because I like honey with my coffee, and a spoon. I generally will write outside if I'm here in Mexico, but either way, I lay out my clothing outside of the bedroom.
So you don't wake somebody up?
So I don't wake anybody up.
Yep.
I fill up a cup with water because I like to drink water first thing.
Yes, for sure.
And my alarm is set 2 hours before basically my kids or my family is going to wake up.
Yep.
And so that changes depending on where I am. Right now it's 6 o'clock. But I wake up, my coffee is already ready because I set it to basically be ready for that timer.
Yep.
I put the honey, in the cup, pour the coffee in. I had set up, not just reviewed my notes, but I had actually opened up the document to the place exactly where I'm starting. that day. Any notes that I have that I'm, using to work on that section, I have open already. Put my clothes on that I put on outside. Chug a glass of water first. Usually pee sometime in there. And go outside, get a deep breath of fresh air. I think that you should touch dirt before you touch a screen.
Okay.
And so I think that it's very important, even when it's, the winter time.
Yep.
I'll go outside and I'll take a big gulp of fresh air and kind of just roll my shoulders out,
Yeah.
Take a couple breaths. And then I sit down and I use what I call the Neil Gaiman rule. Neil Gaiman gives himself two options when he sits down to write, which are you're allowed to write or not write, but you're not allowed to do anything else. And I fully have permission to not write.
Yeah.
But I don't have permission to do anything else.
I like that.
And so after 5 or 10 minutes or so of sitting there, it becomes pretty boring.
Yeah. And
so I sit down and write, and then, I'll go until 8 o'clock, whatever time, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm in Toronto, it's shifted a little bit earlier. It usually starts 5:15, 5:30 or so. Yeah. And then I do the mornings. One of the reasons why Allison and I, again, this is all in the next book, but a lot of people start relationships based off of compatibility. Actually, it's complementarity that makes relationships work. Allison's a night person. I'm a morning person. And that's one of the reasons that our household works well. So she lays in longer. I generally will do breakfast. We'll do kids' lunches, get everybody ready, and then, gently wake Allison up when it's about time to go. But then at nighttime, really past 2 p.m., I'm a sack of shit.
Yeah. Yes.
And so, that's my routine.
No, I love it. I'm just always interested in that because every great writer I know, every great content creator has a routine. And so I'm just always intrigued by that.
It's so hard to do the work that nobody sees for long enough for it to matter.
Yeah.
That it has to become habitualized.
Yeah.
It has to be a routine. It has to become the thing for the sake of doing the thing.
Yep.
And I don't think there's any other way. I really don't. It's simply too difficult to do any other way.
It's so counterintuitive to what most people think too, because most people hear creative and they think, "Oh, I'm inspired. I'm going to sit down and..." No, if you read what the best authors of all time have done, they have a routine, right? So it's not just I'm writing on inspiration. Yeah, that's great, but hey, man, they sit through just like anybody else, right? They have good days and bad days, right? You see it in sports. Steph goes for 50. Hey, maybe the next day he only has 17, right? Writers probably have days where it's like just flowing and you got 2,000 words before you know it. There's another day you're pulling teeth to get 200 good words out, But it's not,
it's obviously about writing, but I don't think it's just about writing. I've been using the term work differently lately.
Yeah.
And I think what you do for your work and what you do for your job are very different. Your work is your thing. It's the thing that you've got boundless energy for. It's the thing that will never burn you out. It's the thing that you have a hard time talking to most people about because it comes so natural to you. And not to them. I actually don't think that your thing, I actually don't think that your work should become your vocation. And I've gone back and forth on that, but I'm pretty sure that that's where my opinion lies now and probably into the future. Because, one of the reasons why I'm enjoying and I find this writing and this authorship so creatively fulfilling is that I don't depend on it for my family's livelihood. Don't get me wrong. I would love for the books to sell well. My publisher and my agent would certainly love for the books to sell very, very, very well. And I would be happy if that, were to happen. They've sold fine. but they haven't blown the roof off, right?
Yeah.
But regardless, they cannot be responsible for because that would take away from the joy of it.
Yes.
That would take away from the joy of it. And so, I think that's so like I said, I'm using the term work and the term job differently these days. And I mean, go back to fitness, man. There's a lot of people who work in fitness that probably shouldn't work in fitness.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it should probably be their work and not their job. Yes. And because they made it their job, now they hate their fucking work.
Yes. Wow. I think we need to end on that. John, man, this is amazing. Really, just so unique. We had such a random mix of topics in there.
I like the rabbit holes.
I hope this was fun for you. Yeah, I love rabbit holes too.
Yeah.
Where can my listeners find out more about you and the work that you're doing?
I'm writing a weekly article now that I'm really enjoying again.
Okay.
So, God, I should figure out a good way to tell you how to get to it. On my website, theptdc.com. Go to 5repsfriday.com. You'll get on my newsletter that way. That I'll email you the article. I mean, I'm on social medias and a bunch of places too. It's Coach Goodman, but like any social media content, like it's fine, but you'll consume it and then you'll wonder where the day went and what you gained out of it. So the articles are much deeper. And then, the book, The Obvious Choice. Go buy a copy. It's great.
I love it. I'll get links to all that in the show notes. And John, man, really appreciate you coming on, brother. Thanks so much.
Thanks, man.